Hey, everybody. Dave Hagan here. This week, we're going to talk about 10 ways to Zoom at Thanksgiving and then how to use those skills in everyday business. That's today on the Financial Wellness Podcast. Unfortunately, still coronavirus edition.
Welcome to the Financial Wellness Podcast, Dave's weekly message to keep you on your path to the financial success. Here is your host, financial problem solver and talk show host, Dave Hagan.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the Financial Wellness Podcast, or the TFWP for those of you in the know. With me today are the guys, Nick Capel, Brian Reed. Welcome, guys.
How's it going, Dave?
Hey, Dave.
Everybody's here, and you guys are coming to us from all the usual places. And if you're not a usual listener, a regular listener, listen to a previous episode and find out where they usually come from. But it's good to see you guys. Always a pleasure.
Always fun. Getting through another week of COVID.
Boy, I'm telling you, another week of coronavirus edition. Huh? It's brutal. It's just brutal. The number of cases are going up again. And I heard that just this morning, who was it? The Prime Minister of England is going to close the country for a month. Who would have thought, right?
You think that's a good idea, or that's a topic for another day?
Yeah, it's a topic for another day, but could you imagine somebody trying to do that in the United States?
Actually, interesting fact, Dave. You know, this has also happened in Germany and France.
Yeah, they've shut it down.
Yeah,
it's
for
just
a month.
not. But you know, I mean, the American experience is such that to tell everybody just to sit in your house for a month, wow, that would go over by a lead, like a lead balloon, regardless of which party tried to pull it at this point. I think maybe it's got to be done. But it's going to be interesting to see how England does. You know, it's interesting also how things change over time. I mean, think of this, guys. 2 years ago in episode 144, we were talking about Thanksgiving and we were talking about giving thanks or having an attitude of gratitude. And a year ago in episode 246, we talked about Thanksgiving and we focused on the giving portion of that word. I mean, what great, warm, fuzzy, important actually topics, it seemed to me. But then this year, we're talking about some way to have a meaningful holiday in the face of the worst pandemic of our time. Oh my goodness. We're going from giving and being thankful to how to scratch a meaningful holiday out of an otherwise shit show of a year, difficult year. But it's all good. It's all good. We can
Dave, don't edit that out in post. Come on. It's allowed.
Oh,
it's 2020. It's a pandemic. All bets are off. Anything is allowed.
Well, then let's move on. But it seems to me it's still all good. And we can still find a way to have a meaningful and safe holiday. And that's really what I want to talk about today. And then we'll see if any of these principles apply to the business aspect of our lives. So, guys, get this. This week, the California governor, Gavin Newsom, issued guidelines for having Thanksgiving. Now, get this. The state government is issuing guidelines on how we should conduct Thanksgiving in our house.
Just Governor Newsom, man.
The gift that keeps giving. Now, these are the guidelines. Check this out, guys. Number 1, no more than 3 households worth of people per celebration.
I mean,
what defines a household?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I live by myself. If I have, the next 2 apartments next to me over, and that's 3 people, is that even one household? I grew up in a household of 4 people.
Yeah, but think of this. If your Thanksgiving celebration is only 3 people that live next to each other, you're not going to get Corona V, dude.
Well,
That's true.
what if they're all good Catholics and they've got 8 kids each and 3 households of 8 people all come over?
Better get tested. Just saying. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine I saw something recently where they were talking about people coming together for a gathering, and before you came in, I saw an article actually, and they said before someone should come in for the Thanksgiving feast, you should ask them at the door to take a test, and you should make arrangements for people to be tested at the door. Could you imagine that? Hey, you want to come in and have some turkey, but let me put a pipe cleaner up your nose first. That's something to give thanks for. I don't know
what if a family had the one of those temperature taking guns,
that would be fine.
I'd be like, let's just make sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But 3 households worth of people per, I don't know. That sounds, on one hand, it sounds almost too mechanical. And then on the other hand, it sounds just way too vague. I don't know. Number 2, you should have your celebration outside. Well, I mean, that might be okay if you can do it, right?
If it's, well, yeah, it's, it's Gavin Newsom, it's Los Angeles. Sure. That's actually possible.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah, I would say if it's possible, I mean, it seems feasible and it's what's in the best interest of the public.
Sure. Number 3, it should be less than 2 hours long.
Oh, hell no. Pardon my French.
What if you go over, man? Does someone bust through the front door and go, all right, everyone up against the wall?
The Kool-Aid kid comes in and it's a Gavin Newsom mask.
Yeah. Or, 2 hours is up and an alarm goes off and you go get in your car. Everyone, they're going, but I haven't finished my turkey.
The game isn't even over. The first game isn't even over yet.
I know. Brutal.
Yeah.
I don't know. Number 4, you can go indoors to use the restroom, but the host must sanitize often. Now, how are you going to know that? Hey, Phil, have you wiped down the bathroom so I can go in and take care of my private business?
Man, I don't think I've had a bathroom monitor since elementary school.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to figure this out. Number 5, singing, chanting, or shouting is discouraged. I'm not making this shit up, guys. This is it. These were the guidelines. Who's thinking up this stuff and who thinks that people are going to follow it? And how are you going to monitor this? I mean, you guys are singing. We're going to call the 911 hotline and report you. We hear you doing your Thanksgiving turkey dressing chant. We're going to write you up.
Is there a Thanksgiving carol that I don't know about?
And it could be. They
gobble, gobble, gobble.
We wish you a Merry Thanksgiving, something like that. I don't know. So anyway, I'm thinking about this and I'm going, what would I do if I was like in sending out guidelines or trying to encourage people to have a safe and happy holiday? How about this? Number 1, try to limit travel or don't travel at all. I mean, that makes sense. The biggest travel day of the year is Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Think of all the interaction of people on that day. Try not to travel if you can help it. Maybe you stay at home. Maybe you use an electronic type of communication. I don't know. But limit your travel or don't travel at all. 2, have a small gathering with close family members. Just this one year. Make it a little smaller. Make it a little more intimate. Maybe it doesn't have to be the big table. I don't know. But something to think about. Number 3, social distance if possible. Well, that's kind of the duh, right? I mean, everybody should be doing that anyway. So if you say, hey, Uncle Maury, can you hit me on a post route of the cranberry sauce? That'd be okay. Do a little social D, Number 4, have the meal outside if at all possible. We talked about that. This is SoCal. We try and do that as much as possible. And then maybe 5, wear a mask, at least until you arrive or, from the car to when you go in or something like that. Or maybe the whole time, although that's pretty uncomfortable,
I don't know. I'm down for wearing the mask full time, but have your Thanksgiving.
Okay.
I'm kind of I'm all in on the mask. Wear it while you're eating. Lift up, or maybe on that, I would say probably no, but just go do it banquet style.
Yeah.
If you got 3 households or, families coming over, fine. Everybody wear the mask during the normal part. And then when it's time to go eat, do a buffet. Family A kind of eats over with themselves. Family B is in the same room, but kind of in a pod a little bit over.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've had couples over, not Thanksgiving, obviously this year, but we've had folks over for a meal, and, my wife and I will sit at one end of the table, and at the other end of the table is the other couple. So it's like 2 pods, but we're sitting at opposite ends of a larger table.
Yeah.
That seems to me to be pretty responsible, and it didn't really cut into our enjoyment of the evening that much. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
Dave, I think that's a great solution. Just have kind of like 2 pods, and just sit at either side of the table.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Or have different groups around the house. Here's going to be a 3-seater, a 4-seater place. Go outside. Here's 3-4 seats, or 2 4 5 seat pods, or, something like that. People can still have a good time. I don't know. Even better. How about this? This one year, Zoom. Do it by Zoom. It turns out that you may miss or maybe not miss getting together with some of your family. You can still have that emotional interaction over the Zoom if you do it right. And yet, if there's somebody that you don't appreciate in your family, you could mute them. So maybe you just do it. Maybe you just do it by Zoom this year. But think of this: it's only going to be this one year. It's only going to be, and of course, unless we really like it, it's just easy. You don't have to get in the car. You just turn on the Zoom. It's like, should we watch Netflix or Prime, or should we Zoom Thanksgiving? I don't know. But if it's for only 1 year, you can do it for 1 year. I remember years ago, it turns out we were redoing the family room and the kitchen, and it was going to run into Christmas. And so that whole part of the house was boarded off, and there was dust on the other side of it. It was just a god awful mess. And so we didn't even have a place to put up a Christmas tree. And so what we did is we got one of these little white spiral lighted Christmas trees, about 2-3 feet high. We put it in the corner. We put our gifts under it. And we all joked about it. The one time in our lives, we won't have the big fluffy green tree. And, we talked about how goofy that little white metal Christmas tree looked, but it's something to talk about. It's something to remember. It only happened once. Do you guys really think next year at this time that the coronavirus is going to be such an issue? I mean, I don't.
Well, I hope not.
I mean, I hope not. I mean, and they're talking about something potentially end of this year, first part of next year. I think by the end of next year, there's going to be a lot of vaccine out there. I mean, I'm hopeful that a year from now, this is going to be clearly in the rearview mirror. Will it be completely gone? I don't think so, but it'll certainly be significantly in the rearview mirror.
I mean, there's a lot of people who are not going to get the vaccine right away.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's always going to be that, right? Yeah. I mean, there's always going to be. I never used to get a flu shot. I mean, don't tell anybody, but I used to never get a flu shot because they said, well, there's a small risk that it could give you the flu. And I never got the flu, ever got the flu. I'm very, very healthy, almost as healthy as you know who. And so this year, beginning of this year, I got it really bad. So I'm going to get the flu shot. I'm going to go ahead and do that from now on. But you're right. There's going to be people that aren't going to take it. But, if the rest of us are, I don't know. We may never shake hands when you meet someone in a business context again. But I think that certainly next year at this time, the coronavirus, if we play it smart, will be substantially in the rearview mirror. Brian, what do you think?
I think the handshake will come back.
Really?
Yep.
I miss that. I really do.
Yeah, I think it will come back, but I also think that the moment it turns into a flu season, it's also going to be normal to not shake hands. We're back to the elbow bump or whatever.
Yeah. All right. So I think that, it's a small price to pay. If you Zoom this 1 year, you can still have a good experience. And if it helps to shorten or lessen the worst pandemic of our lifetime, I mean, why not? Small price to pay. So that's what I want to talk about today. 10 ways to Zoom at Thanksgiving. Give our listeners something to think about, and then we'll see if these spill over into the business context. We already talked about actually good Zooming practices in general in episode 316. And if you don't know what those are, you should go back to episode 316 and listen to it. A lot of people are already talking about the things that we were talking about way back then, but you should have in your mind a list of 3, 4, 5 things that you can do to be a more effective Zoomer. But past those general things, let's talk about 10 tips. Tip number 1, plan ahead. You can't do a family Zoom on the spur of the moment. There's too many variables, too many things that'll go wrong. If you don't believe me, look at that Saturday Night Live piece where they had a business that was doing their first Zoom meeting, and they had someone like pick up their phone and take it into the bathroom. Do you remember that piece on SNL? It was like,
I did not see that one.
It was hilarious. I think it was hosted by Tom Hanks, and Adie Bryant was playing the part of the little old doddly like receptionist, I think. And she picks up and goes to the bathroom and sets it down and starts to take her pants down, and the whole business goes, stop. We can see that. It was really pretty funny, but there's too many things that can go wrong, and you need to plan. So that's number 1, plan ahead. And that's why we're talking about this in the first part of November. Number 2, choose someone to host and send out the invite. I mean, that seems obvious, but you got to choose someone to host. You can't have 2 people trying to host at the same time and run 2 parallel Thanksgiving. Won't work, just won't work. Number 3, test the connections ahead of time. What device are you going to use? You're going to use a cell phone. You're going to use an iPad. You're going to use a laptop computer. You're going to use, get this will blow your mind, a widescreen TV. Think about that. But test your connections. Make sure that everything's gonna work. I don't know about you guys, but when I try and do electric stuff with my folks, it can turn into a hard time because they just get confused about all the variables and all the things, and I think they have trouble even reading, some of the text on some of these things, and it can get pretty crazy. No, Dad, the button in the lower right-hand corner. No, don't touch the other one. No. And you've just got to plan ahead and get ready for that kind of stuff. Number 4, test the picture ahead of time. Where are you going to be doing this? You're going to be eating at the table? You're going to be sitting at the sofa? Hopefully not eating. I can't imagine a Zoom of straightforward of somebody trying to eat at the sofa and everything dropping in their lap, but maybe. Are you going to be walking and talking? I mean, that's certainly one way that it's done. Do it the 60-minute style, walking and talking. Is it going to be one person in each frame, or is it going to be 5 people in a frame? Is everyone going to be sitting down in one picture? What's the angle going to be? You need to set the device up that's going to have that camera in it and have it ready to go and in a placeholder ahead of time. Even if you're going to do some walk and talk initially, by the time you get to the sit down part, you should put that device down in a prescribed place and make sure that everybody's all going to be in that picture. And let me give you a bonus tip. Air share. So do the phone or do the iPad and air share it to the TV. So if you've got an Apple TV box in the back, you can put that image up on the screen. So you could sit there on the couch, have the TV on the little iPad in front of you on the coffee table, and the 4 or 5 of you could just sit on the sofa for an hour and have Thanksgiving with people. You could have your Thanksgiving wine with folks, and then maybe move on to the meal. But think about that, to do that on the TV. How cool would that be? And I'll bet if you got a smart TV, you could probably even attach the camera right to the TV, because there's a Zoom app I hear for doing this on TV. So that would be really cool, really convenient, really comfortable to do. Number 5, make sure that the camera is sitting down. I talked about this just a couple minutes ago, but if someone's trying to hold the camera, things can move around and it can get a little weird. I know when I speak with on the phone, even a one-on-one, podcast, or not a podcast, but a Zoom call, let's say, and the person's got a little Alzheimer's, and the phone starts to shake a little bit, and it gets really hard to to concentrate. In fact, it'll make you a little nauseous because the images are all moving back and forth. So make a point to set it down after the walk and talk portion. And that way it'll be a steady, clean image. Number 6, create a script of the time. In other words, have a clear understanding among everybody when you're going to start, what goes on in between, and what time it'll end. You don't want the end of this, this Zoom session to be someone, oh my God, the rolls are burning and there's a big flame. That's not a good end to a family Zoom.
And Dave, if you have 2 parties at one house, make sure to set your timer for 2 hours because you can't go over.
Well, the governor will appreciate that, and you will be complying with the law, and you won't have to worry about someone, busting through the window, kicking in the window, going, "All right, everybody out." So I think it's a much better way to do that, but set the expectations. Okay, we're going to start at 5, and we're going to just have drinks till 5:30, and then they're going to bring food in, or we're going to talk for an hour, hour and a quarter, whatever it is. And then everyone's going to turn it off and go have dinner, maybe dinner separately. But set an expectation as to our script, as to start, what goes on in between, and an end. Also, tip number 7, set an expectation as to the end. When's it going to end? I've seen Zoom calls among friends go on for such a long time, like 2.5 hours later, I'm going, is that it? There's 2 or 3 people left and there were 15 to start, and there's a couple hanger-oners. And you need some kind of an expectation as to when everyone can politely say, well, it's been very nice talking to you and I need to go. Tip number 8, consider Zooming in pods. And I haven't seen anyone talking about this. This is something I've been thinking about. But I think that it's easier to have groups of people participating in a Zoom than individuals. It's especially a good idea when you've got, elderly people, because someone in their pod can help them with the tech, right? Mm-hmm. But if you're talking about a Zoom call with 25 people, and a Thanksgiving celebration could easily be that, absent the governor's guidelines. And I think that having 25 boxes on the screen can get everyone can start to blend in a lot. But I think if you had 5 groups of 5 people, it would be much easier to keep track. It'd be easier to keep the conversation going. It would be easier to see everybody. I just think 5 groups are easier.
Dave, I like that idea, especially if maybe you like you said, with the casting to your TV, okay, then use your phone and put it far enough away from everyone so people can enter the scene and exit and leave the room and come back in, and it's a wide enough shot to see the couch and 2 chairs. And
right,
because my sister has 3 sons, and if we're going to try and do a video, they either have to do it individually or on at least 2 Zoom 2 devices, because you put the 3 of them together, they will get in a fight. If you force them to sit everyone right on the couch next to each other, that'll never work.
I like that idea. I mean, you can kind of have monitors within the pods. Now, Aunt Sally, that's not a nice thing to say about Uncle Ned. Let's move on. They can help monitor the people, Grandma Eve, don't put your hand up by your nose like that. People might not think that's a nice dinner thing to do. But I think it makes a lot of sense. I think it makes a whole lot of sense. I don't know. Here's a bonus tip. Plan a cooking Zoom earlier in the day so you can get 2 Zooms out of the day. And while people are cooking, they can have a more casual experience. Oh, how much shortening do you put into that? Or, oh, I've never made sweet potatoes that way, or da-da-da-da-da. Just kind of an interesting thing, something to think about, a more casual thing for something earlier in the day. If people are up for it, maybe not. Tip number 9, plan an activity. And maybe this is part of tip number 6, where we were talking about a script of the time, but plan an activity. If you just have people there, just looking for something to talk about, and you've got 15, 20 people, sure enough, someone's going to say, how'd you like the way that election turned out? And then all hell's going to break
Oh.
loose, right? Don't do that. You know, have some kind of a script. Think about it. I mean, some people are saying, oh, play a board game, play Monopoly or whatever. Yeah. In a couple hours, you're going to play Monopoly. Boring to me,
I've done Pictionary Zoom and it was fun.
That would be kind of fun. Sure.
Everybody had a whiteboard,
Uh-huh.
positioned the camera when you were drawing, to show you your hand or, focused on the board.
Right.
And we probably had 10 people on the Zoom. We were in the, 2 teams of 5.
Nice.
And it worked exactly like, it should.
Sounds fun. And let me ask you this. Did it also involve adult beverages?
Yes. It was drinking Pictionary. Somebody held the timer up to the camera. We took turns with that. We all had our own, everyone's got Pictionary lying around.
Right.
So, no, actually, yeah, we had use our cell phones. So
okay.
Every now and then somebody, when it was time for somebody to be the timekeeper, they would hold their cell phone up and everyone could see, and it was fun.
See, now that's something you could pull off in a group context like that. It would give some people something to do. It involves some creativity, keeps people from talking about elections. I don't know. That sounds fun. Nick, you had said charades.
Yeah. And, I think it's almost the same thing as Pictionary, but for those that don't have Pictionary, you split up the participants half and half, and then it's just like a game of charades.
Yeah,
and
I like that.
It's fun. You can have your adult beverage, Dave.
I like it.
It's a good time.
I like it. Well, here's my thought. What about the usual thing? You go around the table and say, well, what are you thankful for, little Nelly? I always thought that was kind of meaningful because it caused people to think about the true meaning of Thanksgiving. But sometimes that can get a little personal. It can get a little schmaltzy. Someone could say, well, what are you thankful for? And I would say, I'm thankful that I caused world peace, I don't know.
Dave, I'm thankful for TFWP.
I like it. I like your thinking. Looks like someone's bucking for a promotion, huh? I just think it's something different. How about this? This is my favorite idea. Go around the table and ask people, what's your favorite memory of Thanksgiving? It's a little personal, nice. But it's meaningful, and it causes people to think back over, all of their Thanksgivings and those that were more meaningful than most. And yet it doesn't have to be as personal. And they'll say, well, why, and then have them tell you why it was meaningful to them. That might be fun. Just as an aside, if you're ever out with a couple that's been married for some period of time, ask him, how the guy proposed. Oh my goodness. Does that lead you down to a lively discussion? Because there's inevitably 2 versions of it, and it's really interesting. But having people think about and relate some of these highlight moments in their life can be a lot of fun. And then what about this? Vote and have a prize for the best. What do you guys think about that? Could get competitive.
And it could retroactively cause some fights.
Yeah.
Why didn't you propose better 25 years ago? Well, you were fine with it at the time.
Yeah, I agree with Brian. I think we can
leave. Too late. You said yes. It's over.
So what? Leave the voting and the prize out of it, huh?
I think so.
You agree, Nick?
Yeah, I agree. I think leave the gifts for Pictionary or for charades.
Okay. I think if you want to have a gift against a story, it's got to be a worst.
Oh, the worst memory, the most boring, the most
blasé. What was your worst holiday? What happened?
Okay. And then instead of having a nice prize, have a booby prize, a pink elephant, a whatever, You say, well, second prize is 1 meal at this restaurant, and first prize is 2 meals, or vice versa. I don't know. But yeah, have kind of a white elephant prize if you're going to do that. It's a good idea. How about tip number 10? Maybe most important. If you're eating, chew with your mouth shut. How many times have I said that to kids over the years? My kids. But can you imagine you're sitting there in a Zoom and in this high definition world where you can practically see, the whiskers on a ball player's face on a baseball game. By the way, go Dodgers. You could see pretty graphically what somebody's working on there in the mouth. That might be a little much. Shut that mouth.
Plus, the microphone's there. You don't want to hear all the slurping and the slurping.
Oh, I didn't think about that. All that
God.
tongue and saliva stuff going on. Yeah, we don't need that. That's too much. Too much.
I mean, just turn the video off and then put yourself on mute.
Yeah, you could do that, or just drop out of view. And if you got a good background, it'll work. I found a nice picture of Brad Pitt, and if things get out of control, I can just dump out of the screen and the background, and they'll think that I'm having Thanksgiving with Brad Pitt, which of course I would anyways, right?
Oh yeah, because you and Brad are tight.
Oh yeah, simpatico. That's the term that's in. We're simpatico. So anyway, how many of these things apply to business Zooming? And that's why, everybody, this is a coronavirus edition. How much of this Zooming, we know the technical stuff from that past episode, but does any of this Thanksgiving stuff apply to business or professional Zooming? Well, of course it does. Number one, plan ahead. Of course that applies to business. Number two, choose a host. Of course that applies to business. In fact, think of this. The host is the one who's initially in control of the conversation. Think about that next time someone asks you to host. Number three, test your connections. Of course. Hopefully you've already done that. Number four, test the picture frame. We talked about that in the past episode. Five, a stable camera. Of course. A script. Of course. Number seven, plan the length of the podcast of not the podcast, the Zoom, of course, within reason. Number eight, consider an activity or consider pods. That was number eight. Consider pods within a Zoom. Sure, if you can. Number nine, plan an activity. Well, it's kind of hard to do on a business call unless you consider negotiation a game or an activity. Tune in next week. Maybe we're going to talk about negotiation.
Nice tie-in, Dave.
There you go. Yeah. Number 10, chew with your mouth closed. Well, yeah, but how about even better? Don't eat during a business Zoom, for goodness sakes. Have you noticed that? People will put their legs up on the table, or people will eat a sandwich or something like that. I mean, give me a break. You shouldn't be eating during a business Zoom call. So you see, most of these things apply, though. Most of these things apply. But enough about business. Let's go back to Thanksgiving, because it's my favorite holiday. It's usually 4 days. It's the same time of the year. It's a sure thing. And there's a lot of food involved, a lot of football involved. My favorite holiday. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We've still got several weeks before this is actually going to go down, and that's time to start planning an effective way to still have a great, meaningful Thanksgiving in the face of this unbelievable coronavirus, or coronas, as some have called it, that we're still working on defeating. But it all involves having a plan, and maybe part of that plan is Zooming just this 1 year as our part to try and further the stopping of the growth or the decline of this virus. What do you guys think, Brian?
I think it'll work. We're going to have Zooms. I'm doing it with my family. No one's traveling. It's just not going to be worth it. So
smart.
We're taking a lot of the things that you've been talking about, and we're doing it. We're going to set it up, and we'll find a way. And it's 1 year.
Yeah.
So scenario, it's going to be 2 years, and I don't think it's going to be 2. So
do this ahead of time. Tell your family to listen to the podcast and say, "See, Uncle Morty, you need to chew with your mouth shut." Nick, how about you?
Yeah, I similar to Brian, we're going to be doing a Zoom Thanksgiving, and I think all of these 10 tips today are really going to be beneficial for us having the best possible Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Yep. And we can make it work and make it meaningful and still still combat the virus. Hey, I want y'all to come back next week because I've got a couple ideas that are just blow your mind about how to do Black Friday coronavirus style. And we're going to talk about negotiating a little bit. So come back next week. We've got another topic and we'll talk about some other holiday things. See you then. This is Dave Hagan, and you've been listening to the Financial Wellness Podcast, Coronavirus Edition.
You've been listening to the Financial Wellness Podcast, Dave's weekly message to keep you on your path to financial success. If you have a question that you would like Dave to answer on the podcast, go to thefinancialwellnesspodcast.com. You can leave an audio message with one click of a button, or type your message into the question box. Either way, it's sent right to Dave's phone. Remember, Dave will randomly draw from the submitted questions and pick the winner of a free 1-hour personal conversation with Dave to help you achieve your financial goals. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you receive the new episode notifications, or share the podcast via the app with your family and friends. This is your announcer, Nick Appel, wishing you every financial success.